Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. It's been a while since I've come to join you. Good to see everybody or see you in the comments. If you are hearing this and seeing this on Facebook, let me know if I sound okay. The last time we did a lesson picks video, our audio really sucked because I was using that mic on the overhead camera, which is a mistake. So let me know if you can hear me okay. We are going to talk about a nifty little project that is actually going to work out kind of cool. I'm going to show you. Judy says loud and clear. Thank you, Judy. So let's get started. So we actually made an unofficial partnership request. We worked with Adafruit to make something kind of cool. I sound like me. Well, I don't know. That's kind of a backhanded compliment. All right, fine, Alyssa. I sound like me. All right, I sound fabulous. I have a wonderful voice with fabulous timbre, whatever it's called. All right, fair enough. All right, let's take a quick look at what we have in front of us. Let's start with how this started. So, this is how this started. I could not sleep one night, and I knew that Adafruit's a partner we work with. They make electronics online. They sell it online, mostly open source stuff, and they've made most of the things that let us work and make things for AT have something to do with Adafruit. So we're using their boards, we're using their parts, we're following their guides, we're doing stuff that they guide, and we just apply it to assistive technology, which is why it's such a good partnership. They had said on one of their shows that they had a whole bunch of ATMD21 processors, which are these little tiny chips. I'll show you one in a second. And because of the way they had ordered during COVID, they got all of them at once, and they had way more than they needed. And they were looking for ideas. And they got this idea of making a little tiny board that does exactly one thing. I can show you some examples in a little bit if we want to. But they were trying to figure out things to use these SAMD21s for. So actually, let me present this way so that it's a little easier. All right. So what I think about when I can't sleep, and so I sent this note to Limor. Limor Fried is their founder that said, if you just took one of these jacks, if we just took one of these TRRS jacks right here and wired it this way, right? So wired this particular way out of the box, it would be super handy because folks who use a Sling Ring like Chris Young would immediately be able to just plug in to anything with a USB port and their Sling Ring would just work. In addition, anything with one or two switches would just plug in and work. And if we did it right, and we were really careful, we could also be able to plug in analog inputs and be able to use them for the Xbox adaptive control, etc. I included my first pass at what this would look like, and I sent it to Limor and said, I know you'll do a much better job. And she did. And so she came back about, 3 days later with a response to me saying, great idea. Here's my much better design than yours. And we've kind of followed along as she has perfected that and really kind of kicked butt on it. So let me start showing you guys what this thing looks like. All right. So this is the board. Okay, so let me get a good close up here. Maybe. There we go. All right, so this is the board, and this is what they have made, and it comes just like this. You don't have to solder anything. It comes just like this with the USB-A. That's an old school USB plug, and then all the electronics on it. This little thing right here, not the best pointer in the world, but whatever. Here. So this thing right here is the ATSAMD21. This is the thing that they had so many extra chips of that they wanted to put to good use. This is the TRRS jack. They call this the TRRS AT Trinkey. And it's got a light. This is a LED light right here. And then in the final version, which I have a prototype version, they also added a Stemma QT which is a I2C port here, but it's not on the version I have because I have the prototype that Limor sent me, which is super awesome of her. This is a power supply, and this switch, this is a reset switch to reset the board. Nothing on the back, nice and super simple, very simple board that just takes in a jack. Let me show you what these jacks look like. They look like this right here. So these are TRRS jacks. They are 3.5 millimeter, and they are tip, ring, sleeve. And those are the different contacts on this. You might know them as aux cords, but they're the aux cords that also have a mic. So they're the kind that plugs into your iPad and gives you like a headset. It's like a headset jack. Interestingly, they also are exactly the same size as AT switches. So if you look at an AT switch, it will look like this. So this is a tip sleeve. It does not have the 2 rings in it, but this is the standard for AT switches, and it is exactly the same size as the TRRS. It just has fewer stripes. Okay, so you can plug a TS plug into a TRRS jack and vice versa. Whether they work perfectly or not is something that we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so what this board has is it has the ability to plug in anything this size, any aux cord size plug in, and then you can write software on this chip to do anything you want that involves plugging it into a USB device like this. Okay, so I did a couple of things. I designed and printed a nifty little cover that this slides into, and it's got nice little. If I can do this under the camera, go in there. There you go. And this will snap down, and then these little tabs hold it in. And so that's just nice because nobody wants to be touching the board. They're always worried that they're going to hurt it or get hurt by it or something like that. Oh, Chris Young is here. Hello, Chris. Hello, Chris. How are you? Say hi when you can.
Hi when I can.
Hi when I can. Good to see you, sir. So this is a little case that I made for it, and I will go ahead and kind of show how this thing works. So when you plug this guy into just my USB port on my laptop right there, it now gives me a jack on my laptop that I can use. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and plug in, I'm going to just plug in a splitter that has 2 switches on it. And we'll talk through why I did that. Let me start with the basics. I will start with just a AT switch, nice big one here, with a TS jack, the standard AT switch on it, and put it on here. And I will show you what it does. So at this point, I'm going to kick down here. Chris, let me know if you're not following anything, or if you can't hear me or anything like that. Let me go to this. I don't know what view to use. I guess this one. Why not? All right. So I'm going to open up a program interface here called Mu, and I'm going to show you what code is running on this board. So this is Python. It's very, very simple Python. It's 38 lines of Python code, half of which are set up. What this does is it looks for events on the switches, and if I press the switch, you'll see a couple things. The first is you'll see down here that it's printing out that the event was pressed and released. And then up here, you'll see right there, that's just where I happen to have the keyboard, it's sending A's. So as I don't know if you can see this, as I press the switch, it's sending key presses and the letter A's. Okay. So let me bring this down here so you can see it typing here. There you go. Okay. That turns out that A changes which camera I'm using, which is great. So I won't send that to OBS anymore. But hopefully that makes some sense. So this switch now coming into this can pretty much do whatever we want. But in this case, we're telling it, I want to just print out a little bit of debugging right here. And then if it's the first switch, I want it to send an A. If it's otherwise, which will be the second switch, send a B. When the event is pressed, I want it to press the key code and send that to the computer as a keystroke, like it's a keyboard, and I want it to release it. Super simple code, really easy here. And it basically gives me the ability to send, if I wanted to make it send enter and space, if I wanted to send A and B or 1 or 2 or whatever else I want it to send, I can do that. And Chris, since you're here, can I have you explain why this is handy for you from a Sling Ring perspective? I'll try and show a Sling Ring for you.
Yeah, well, the Sling Ring has up to 3 buttons on it, and the TRRS is a good way to interface that to anything. The outer ring is always your ground, and then the inner 2 rings are 2 of the buttons, and the tip is the 3rd button. So you can get 3 buttons through a 4-conductor wire, and the TRRS is a good solid way to make those connections.
Right.
It's a standard sort of off-the-shelf kind of item. You use them, like you said, for headphone and microphone jacks, and
yep. And so
they are
this is how you wire yours right now, right?
Yeah.
So
TRS.
Yeah. So you plug these in, and you have a microcontroller that then does fancy stuff, fancy cording and things like that.
Well, right now mostly it's either plugged into a Freedom Wing or into my Ultimate remote. Right. And the way I've got it set up now is I can unplug it from one and plug it into the other one as needed.
Right. And so in your case, these 3 switches that we're looking at right here would each go into one of the 3 rings on the TRRS jack, right? And so that would give you essentially 3 switches going into this Trinkey, right? That then so these 3 would go in, and you would be able to have all 3 of your switches plugged directly into your computer, right?
That's right.
And because you can write code in this thing, you could do all of your coding in it. So you could do, like, you right now have like switch 1, switch 2, switch 3, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and all 3. So you have 6 different keystrokes that you can send when your hand is working the way you want it to, right?
Well, in addition to that, you can also do things with long presses and short presses,
right?
Which can give you some other combinations,
right?
As well,
right?
You have to write the code to recognize, how long is a long press, or anything shorter than that is considered a short press,
right?
But that gives you additional options.
Yeah. So what the idea behind this one is, let's get this thing made, and let's get this thing made cheap. So this device should be, and I don't know if she can get it exactly under, but the goal is to get this device under $10. And that's quantity 1. If you want to buy one of these, it'll be about $10. And you can buy them from Adafruit. You don't have to have somebody assemble them. You don't have to have somebody who knows how to solder or who knows how to do anything. And you can buy this, and right out of the box, you could buy that and one of these stereo to mono adapters from Amazon for, like, I don't know, $3, something like that. And if you did that, if you plug this in right here, right, and plug this guy back into your USB port, you would have two switches going into a switch. Hold on. Every time it does that, it's sending the letter B, and when it says B, it changes to the introduction. So that's just an OBS problem. That's not about the switch here. So here you go. So I plugged in these two to this, and now I've got these two switches, this little one here and this guy, and they'll send A's and B's all day long. Let me go to this view, bring up, I don't know, Notepad. Yeah, all right. And so, yeah, so here's, B's and A's, and it can send them all day long. Okay. Now, all right, Alyssa says compared to a switch interface commercially, this is a game changer. I agree. I think this is something that if you don't get why this is important yet, I think this next thing will make it abundantly clear. Okay. So we're going to come back to what we can do on analog here in a minute, because the way Limor designed this is really, really smart. She took my idea, and not only did she implement what I said perfectly, she added stuff, and then she made it super tiny. The fact that she can get everything on one side of this board is kind of crazy. But I'm going to take this exact board, okay, and I'm going to put the case on because it looks better with the case on, right? Because everybody freaks out about not wanting to touch the electronics. But all right, there you go. So put the case on. And so this time instead, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it into this adapter, which is a USB-A to USB-C adapter. And then I'm going to plug it into my phone. And maybe I might be able to plug it into my phone. All right. So I got to look at it. There you go. All right. So now when I take those same two switches and I plug them in, let me back this up so you can see a little bit better here.
I'm presuming that's a Lightning and not a C.
Nope, that's a C. This is a iPhone 15. This is a iPhone 15 with a USB-C interface.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, isn't that nifty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apple did something standard for a change.
Yeah, only because the EU demanded that they do it.
Yeah, right? Well, three cheers for the EU.
Check this out. So I turned on switch control, right? Next, let's I don't know. Let's take a look at my fishing rules over here, because that should be not too dangerous. And I'm using two switches. I'm doing two switch scanning. Right. Brady Fulton saw it. Right, Brady, you got it. Two switch scanning. So this is two switch scanning on an iPhone, right? So
found himself at the center of a heated
you guys can't hear that.
Resulting in his
I don't really care.
By 4 security guards.
Okay. I don't really want to hear about the guy who got in trouble with the Fish and Wildlife Commission, right? But it is pretty darn cool, right? You've got, next and enter, row column scanning. I don't know. Let's launch. I don't know. I don't want to read my mail. Let's go this way. Sure. Let's check out the rays, right? There we go. This one. I am not a good scanner. Stop it. It's installing something. Chris can tell me what I'm doing wrong. What am I doing wrong, Chris?
I don't know. I don't know what app you're going for.
I'm trying to get to the... Okay, so left is select. I got them backwards. That's the problem. I want to launch my Raise app. Okay. So it works perfectly. And all I did to set this up was I set up iOS switch control. Hey, the Rays are winning. Look at that. To have an A and a B switch. If A is sent, it'll do next. If B is sent, which is this one over here, it'll do select. All right, so 2-switch scanning is immediately set up on iOS for a $10 device and a $3 adapter. That's kind of cool,
again,
right?
Again, especially on switch scanning, the ability to do long presses is very useful to assign a long press to a
Right.
different function.
Yeah, absolutely. This really is something that is, this should be built into, like, when they got rid of the TRRS jacks used to be on like every phone. Like every phone had a TRRS jack. And for the longest time, I'm like, just enable it, make switch control work. Let us plug in a switch with an adapter and have it just work. They never did that. And then they removed it. But this gives it back. And for $10, I mean, for $15, you're all in. You've got this completely working, right? On any phone. So if you have a phone with a lightning connector, they have a lightning to USB-A adapter that will work just fine. If you have an Android, if you have an iPad, it doesn't matter, right? All of them at this point will take a USB keyboard as a switch control input, and therefore it just works. And you don't have to do Bluetooth pairing, and you don't have to worry about interference, or you don't have to do anything else like that. It's hardwired, it just works, and it works. So, first, that's like the on day one. Look how kind of awesome this is, right? For $10, and I can't thank Limor enough for doing this, right? And Chris, I do feel bad that I didn't tell you about this, because I probably should have, but I didn't think about it while we were there in person at the Eclipse, and then afterwards I thought, well, let's just make sure it actually happens, and then we'll share it then. Obviously, if you don't want to program in Python, it works fine on Arduino. There'll be an Arduino board, set up for it, and it'll just work just like the other Trinkeys. I'm sure, Chris, you will be writing Arduino code for this, right? Not Python code, right? Or are you going to practice your Python code?
No, you got to pay me big money to write Python.
So, okay. Let me show you the other thing that this can do because of the way Limor designed it. And it is pretty cool. So I took another one of these. I'll set this one aside so I don't get all mixed up here. And so I took another one and thought I would print the case in pink, because, Limor's into pink hair and stuff. So I made a pink one here. And the pink one is just programmed differently. It has exactly the same hardware. There's nothing different on hardware at all. But this one is set up differently. So, okay. Yeah. Oh, you can't see this. Sorry. So this one, if we look at the code actually is doing analog input. So rather than looking for switches, keypad presses, what this thing is doing is it is reading the analog input from the device. And let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so how do I do this? Can I add this? Yeah, I can add this. You don't need to see my face. Let's move this over here so we can see. All right. So we're not using this. We are using this. So this is something from the Logitech switch. This is the throttle. And if you look, as I squeeze this, right, you see that green line going up and down. And it looks jumpy on the output, but it's actually smooth when I'm not recording it. So what this is doing is it is looking at how hard I'm pressing this device. So like that's halfway pressed, and that's not pressed, and that's fully pressed, right? So this is giving me an analog input into that device. So that means if you have any device that acts like a potentiometer, right? Any device that acts like, Oh, a knob. What's the best? What's the, a volume knob or something like that? There you go. There's this. This is a good view. So then you can get that input into it. And if you wanted to have something and pressing a little made things scroll up fat, a little, and pressing hard made them scroll up a lot, you can do that. You can have an analog input on this device. And then because of the way it's wired, right? So the way it's wired here is that each of these is adjustable to be input or output. So you can set, in this case, I've set the sleeve. This top one is set to power. It's set to 3 volts. The next one is set to ground. And then I read the top two, the top ring and the tip, as what their input is. And the reason I do it in that order is that that's what Microsoft does on the XAC. So if I take this guy out and instead I plug this in, right? So now I have a joystick. And so it's upside down. I have an upside down joystick. There you go. So this is, as I go up and down, I'm getting up and down in the blue axis. And if I go left and right, it's the green axis. And I can go around, right? And so this thing can be a mouse input, a gamepad input. It can go into the XAC as a gamepad instead of anything else. It doesn't have enough to also be a switch. Yeah, so I know Judy's like, what? Right? So this is a really cool tool, right? All of a sudden,
So for $10 a piece, you buy a second one and you use it for the switches.
right? For absolutely correct. For $10, you get a second one. You plug it into a second USB port, and it sends your mouse clicks if you want to, right? But a lot of times, people, this isn't a physical joystick, Chris, right? It's something like it's a head tracker, or it's something that, in your case, I don't want to talk your specifics here, but like on your left hand, right, where you have that switch that you have on your left side, we could put, a variable, what are those resistors called? The harder you press, the higher, the lower the resistance is. The FSR, force sensitive resistor, yeah. Right? We could put an FSR on your left hand and plug it into this, and you could have 3 different activations: light, medium, and hard, with one finger, right? We can do stuff with this, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of neat. So this is like, for $10, I think this is the best $10 you can possibly spend on switch interfaces. I don't think there's any way around that, right? I mean, this is not a perfect device. Like, I think a perfect device for $15 would be a little different. Like this is fabulous. If we want to make a 2.0, right? Or if we want to take this and we're so successful with it, and Lamore sells so many of them that she's thrilled with this, which please buy these, or I'm going to buy some. I think Ron will buy some and turn them into toys and stuff. In an ideal case, have a device with 2 jacks on it and an RP2040 instead of the SAMD21, and that would cost $20 instead of $10 to make, right? $20 instead of $10 to sell. That would be the price for it, and that would let you have switches and the joystick. But this is fabulous, right? This is absolutely, I could not have been any happier with what she did with where we are.
Well, one more thing. If the final version has a Stimma QT connector on it,
yes,
then I'm going to do some brainstorming about how we might be able to leverage that.
Well, yeah, you could use that just as inputs, right? If you're willing to wire to that, you can plug that in and have at least 2 more two inputs, right? 2 more switches. I don't know if the power and ground are probably hardwired, but the SCL and the SDA definitely could be used as inputs, right? And just plug in the Stemma QT there. So we got a question from Brady. What will the production model port change? Okay, so let's talk about that. I'll show it on the overhead. So the difference I think that he's getting to write what just what you said. So what will change on the production model? All right, so the production, come on. Oh, all right, good enough. The production model will only change one thing. So it's not going to change this port. This is still going to be a Model A. And rather than have this be a PCB board Model A, she put in the solder, the through hole Model A, so that this won't break, because she figures it's going to be roughed up a little bit. What it's going to add is right here, it's going to add a Stemma QT. I think this actually is flipped so that the LED goes up here and the Stemma QT goes down here. It's going to add a an I2C port, so a 4-pin power ground SDA SCL port that will look like, I have one here. Hold on a second. Oh, there we go. All right, it will look a lot like this. Okay, so it'll look a lot like this port right here, which I don't know how close I can get in this. Let's see. All right, there you go. So this port is a vertical one, and I think the one she put on this is a vertical one as well, but I'm not sure. But it's got 4 pins in there, and then it's got a plug that you can plug into it, and then you can plug in any sensors, any I2C sensors will be able to go into this board, because it'll have one of those on there as well. So that's kind of awesome. It means if you want to add a temperature sensor, if you want to add a distance sensor, proximity sensor, an infrared sensor, anything else like that, you can do that on this board without adding anything else. So Brady, does that answer? I think that answers your question of what will it change. And yes, you certainly could use that as straight up more input switches as well. All right, so questions. I don't see any questions. I see a lot of exciting people who are like, wow, this is amazing. I think this is amazing. I hope David Haraway, who I haven't seen on here yet, gets to take a look at this. I think that Ron Nelson will make very good use of this in his work. And I know that we will. We'll put this to very, very good use. Right, Chris?
Definitely.
You just want me to send you one, right?
I can think of something to do with it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that if nothing else, it is the least expensive, easiest switch interface for an iPhone that I've ever seen, right? You can plug this into an iPad or an iPhone with nothing other than a one of these adapters right here. In fact, you could use one of these little ones like this, right? You can plug this in, and then there you go. Plug that into the USB-C, and you're good. All right. Timeline until production unit is purchase ready. Weeks, Alyssa. Alyssa is asking. I would say weeks. Usually, once she's done a demo under the Desk of Lady Ada videos, it's usually she's got the prototypes in her hand, and she'll write a tester. She'll make a tester for it, and then it's usually a week or two they'll be announcing it. Now, it might be delayed by me, or it might be delayed by me and Chris, in that I have told her I would put together a guide or two. And honestly, I think the guide is going to show exactly what I just showed. It's going to show two things: how to use this for switch input to turn two switches into two keys. I'd love some advice. I mean, should the default be enter in space? I think so. Or if there's 3, should it be tab enter in space?
Whatever it is, don't make it identical to your OBS keys.
Yeah, don't make it the same as your OBS keys. Yeah, there's others that too. You're talking about the Will I talk about this? So Judy, you need to send the comments where I can see them on the screen. So Judy asked, "Will I show this at the ATMaker demo at Closing the Gap?" Sure, Judy, I'll be happy to. I know I haven't signed up for that yet, and that tomorrow is the deadline. That's her little hint that I have to do this. Brady says, "Is this the cheapest commercial option?" I don't know. That is a question. What is the name of it? Is the Tapio? I thought the Tapio was canceled. The Tapio. Judy says yes. So, is the Tapio the cheapest commercial option? I don't know. So who's got the background? Alyssa might know the answer to that. Let me take a look at what that's costing. Switch interface. Looks like $119. I can't imagine that's the cheap. It comes with an adapter, so for the Lightning. So you do it with a USB-C. That's still under 19. I don't maybe I don't want to this is not a invitation for people to complain about how ridiculously expensive AT is. First, I've had that talk lots and lots, and it has never borne any fruit to get people to. That's not quite true. I think the AT switches came down a little bit when Logitech came out with their switch kit, which we were very much a part of, talked with Logitech about. So there has been some work, but I don't really think this is, this isn't something that I think we should stop buying. If you have a funded device, if you have an $8,000 funded AT device, use the ports that are on it. If you need more of them, use a commercial AT switch. If you're using an iPad and you need it and it's funded, use a commercial switch. Get the warranty, get the insurance, get the liability, and things like that. Alyssa says she thinks that the switch adapter that was DJ is dead. Most are $150 plus. Okay. That would be the Don Johnson switch, I think. The switch interface. Okay. I mean, Adaptivations, I think, has some as well. I'm not suggesting for a minute that this eliminates the need for expensive switch interfaces. I think that is a separate conversation that I wouldn't disagree with, but I'm not having that argument now. I think the big thing for us to think about is when you've got a kid and you're trying to figure out, hey, they might be able to do X. You can't get funded for, hey, they might be able to do, right? Yeah, this is where Judy's got it, right? Folks fall through the cracks, right? So if you want to know if this person would be able to do row column scanning or two switch scanning, and you don't have a switch interface for your iPad, right? If you, this one here. So great inspiration for young makers, for AT assessments, all good reasons. Absolutely. Also, none of the interfaces that you can buy can have Chris Young's logic included for Chris Young, right? So if you want to add, like, Chris's logic is exactly written the way he needs it, or the way he's figured out how he wants this to work, right? So Chris, your 1, 2, and 3 switch combinations, and your long switches and your mode switches. We have Ian Price has got me a completely different set of logic to Chris, in that he can't do combining, but he can do a long switch to change modes of what the switch does, right? So if you hold a switch for more than a second, it starts cycling through what mode you're in, and he's watching the color. Well, this has got a color indicator on it, so it'll tell you which mode you're in, and then that's what your 2 switches do. All of that is stuff that, with a very small amount of programming, you can make something custom that fits this person. And that, to me, is much more powerful than the argument, hey, those things shouldn't cost $150. Okay.
You could put Morse code in it.
Put Morse code in like Jim Lubin does, right? And have it send keystrokes for dot and dash come into this, and it's going to type with Morse code because he does it way faster than anybody using, two switch scanning is. So whatever we can do that. Yeah. So Brady, I'm glad you thought that was a great point, right? This is more valuable for making something custom because it doesn't require anybody to solder, right? It doesn't require anybody to break something open. It's just programming. You plug this in, it comes up, you install CircuitPython on it once, and then you program it exactly the way you want it to work. And there is no commercial program. There's no commercial tool that that can do that, right? So Judy's like, right, commercial switch interfaces are generally not customizable. Our switches aren't customizable either. But the switch interfaces are basically, you've got 5 options of whether you want it sending, up, down, left, right, enter, or you want it sending space, enter, tab, and backspace, right? Whatever it is. This lets you do any logic that you want on it very, very, very easily. So I'm excited about this. Since I'm here and I have it in my hand, I'm going to switch to something real quick because we talked about something came up on ATMakers, the group. Let me see if I can find it quickly. I'll bring it down and see if I can talk to it. And that would give another good reason for this chat here. All right. So down here just today, we had this, which said, David Haraway said, has anybody gotten this to work? And it shows the HiRemapper. So the HiRemapper is a piece of software that takes in HID and sends out HID. And one way to think of this is you send in mouse and you get out keystrokes, or you send in keystrokes, you get out mouse. You send in a combination of keystrokes and mice movements, and you get gamepad. However you want to mix and match this, it lets you do it, and it gives you a nice web interface for configuring it. This tool right here, this tool is the last thing that Adafruit made for us on our request. So this is, they might have made it anyways, but I begged for a year and a half. So I'm going to take some credit for the fact that it got made. So this is a RP2040. So it's another microcontroller chip. It's got a USB-C that you plug into your computer or your iPad or whatever. On the other hand, it's got a USB-A female. So this is the ultimate tool for making a HiRemapper, because you plug in your mouse and you get out your keyboard, or you plug in your mouse and you get out your gamepad. And the only thing that has to change is the software running on this. And that is what the HiRemapper is. The HiRemapper is a piece of software called HiRemapper. It's really super, super tricky. If you look for HiRemapper, right here, this is the software right here. And HiRemapper, you go to a browser. It looks like this. You open your device. You can change how you want the input and output to change, and you can just completely map what this thing's going to look like. Originally, this thing was made with a on-the-go adapter, which they have one here. That's an on-the-go adapter, but it now works exactly perfectly well with the boards from Adafruit. Okay, so these are all different boards that people have made, and the one from Adafruit is available. I think it's $30. Chris, do you remember what they're charging for it?
I'm not sure.
ISB host. I'll tell you. It is $17.50 through Electromaker. Let me see if I can get it actually from Adafruit here. There you go. That's not it. This one. All right, so $17.50. It's currently out of stock, but it's not something that's going to be out of stock regularly. And then the other thing that I would show that I have here.
Now, will that also work as an IntelliKeys adapter?
It does, yes. So that's actually worth mentioning. Let me get rid of this for a second. So here's what it looks like up close. It will work as an IntelliKeys adapter perfectly, and we have the nifty little case. Thanks to Alyssa, that worked perfectly. Thank you, Alyssa, for telling me that the cameras were covering the website. This is the other thing I'll show. So if this is the all-in-one device that it has a microcontroller and everything on it. The only limitation to this is that it is USB to USB. If you want it to be USB to Bluetooth and have it work on your phone, that won't work because this doesn't have a Bluetooth interface on it. But Lemore released this, which is super cool. This is a USB host Featherwing. And so this will add USB host to any feather. So you can pop it on an NRF 52, an NRF 52840, or an ESP32 or things like that. And you can make this talk over Bluetooth to your phone or your iPad as well. So HiRemapper works with this as well. And it works with this out of the box. So I saw the question today and I thought, hey, I'm here. There's no reason to not cover it while we're here. Right, Chris?
Sounds good.
Did you have any questions about those?
I had not seen that wing.
Isn't that wing cool?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I have to think about that.
Yeah, this is the way it works. It uses so this is a Max. I don't know. It's from Max. It's actually a USB host device. It's interesting. This is actually the descendant of the chip that is inside the IntelliKeys. Believe it or not, it's a programmable USB-C host chip. But it's got its own crystal. It doesn't need anything. You pop it on anything, and it works through SPI. So it's got chip select, IRQ, and it uses the SPI pins plus chip select and IRQ. So the only two pins that you're giving up are these two. And if you need to make them different pins, you can by cutting this. It needs 2 pins to work. So pretty easy. So cool. I think that's a delayed cool from Chris.
Yes.
It's okay. You have a free pass for not unmuting tonight. So I'm sorry we did this so late that you can't be on camera. I know better, but I didn't realize I was going to have the time to do it today. I'm buying a house. I'm buying a house first thing in the morning. It's a crazy decision, and it'll be a whole other set of things because it's an accessible house. It's super cool. But that's a separate discussion for tomorrow. There is actually a chat, if anybody wants to join, that I started on there called Council of Wheels. I called it Council of Wheels. I was having a wild hair day and named it Council of Wheels, which is just that I need advice from people who are in power chairs because I'm trying to figure out how to adapt the house and make it easy to get around in. So if you'd all like to join that on the Facebook group, I would love your input. Anybody else have any questions on anything at all? Judy, Alyssa, Brady, anything? Y'all are happy? I will take that as a yes. Silence is golden. Chris, thank you for joining me. And for those of you who haven't seen it, Chris posted an amazing video about the eclipse. And it's long, but all of Chris's videos are long. It was super cool. Lori and I went out there, and it was quite impressive. Did you post that to the ATMakers group?
I did not. It wasn't really AT related, and I figured if you wanted to post it there, you would.
Okay. I will probably post the snippet around totality with a link to the full video. What do you think about that?
Whatever.
I think the totality was
But
so
they're
cool.
They're gonna miss you crashing the drone.
I like them missing me crashing the drone. Yes, the
How'd you
brand
like
new $1,000 plus drone that I had bought 3 hours earlier and crashing the drone and breaking the drone, by the way.
What do you think about audio insert when you knock the drone out of the tree?
Yeah. I thought it was fine. I
Okay.
thought the Hindenburg was appropriate. I think Chris finally saw me actually angry. You think that's fair, Chris?
Yeah, I think so.
So, I don't think you've ever seen me angry before. Not happy. Judy and Alyssa are happy. I'm happy, but I'm hungry, so I'm going to go eat. And if you guys have any questions, post them in the comments. I will check them later. And Chris and I and everybody will answer any questions you have. So bye, everybody. See you later. Bye, Chris.